everyone, it's Nini. This is always such a flattering angle. Me and my double chin are on our way to Wisconsin for kind of a little true crime tour. I cover Midwest true crime for my true crime channel. I started researching at Gein and I thought, oh, it might be kind of neat to take a little road trip to Plainfield and see the sites where that occurred. And then I started researching Jeffrey Dahmer, and Milwaukee is only 2 hours from Plainfield. So I thought, well, when in Rome, or when in Wisconsin. And then a subscriber on that channel, they said, well, you could do videos just on Waukesha alone. I didn't realize that was where the Slenderman Stabbing and the Christmas Day SUV attack took place. And that is a suburb of Milwaukee. So I thought, oh, they're all not too far from each other. I'll just hit them all up. I can get some footage for my true crime channel and actually see the sites, which I think is going to be kind of cool. My first night, I'm going to be staying in Madison. I was talking to my therapist about this trip, and she told me... She told me that I should check out the farmer's market that's in Madison because it's right on the Capitol grounds. It's supposed to be a huge farmer's market, and I love farmer's markets. So that'll be the first thing I do tomorrow morning. I was going to do this trip towards the end of October, but the leaves are changing so soon, and so many of them have already started to fall off. And Wisconsin's supposed to be very pretty in the fall with the leaves, and I'm afraid if I wait until the end of October, there won't be any leaves. So I'm squeezing it in on this weekend. It's cloudy and windy right now, but Saturday and Sunday are supposed to be sunny and in the 50s. For most people that would be cold, but I run hot, so for me that is... So it should be fun. Thanks for riding along with me. Good morning from Madison. It's early here. I'm gonna head out to the farmer's market down at the Capitol. I'm assuming there's gonna be yummy food at the farmer's market. There usually is. So I'm gonna do breakfast there. The hotel does have a free breakfast, but this hotel is probably a 2-star. So I don't know if I want to eat that. My bathroom smells like weed, and I had to pay $100 deposit last night. I'm like, really? The lobby and hallway smell like cigarette. There's stains on the carpet, and my bathroom smells like pot. You're really worried I'm gonna destroy your property? But I'm not a high-class girl. I wasn't looking for a fancy hotel. It was literally just a place to sleep, and I'll be sleeping someplace else tonight, so it's fine. The sun has just come out, so I will see you at the Capitol. We both got our cameras out, don't we? Gonna do a little farmer's market haul. There was a keto vendor, so I got a couple of keto treats. They were expensive though. Got some ground cherries, maple butter, probably not keto friendly. They let me have a sample of it. It was so good. She was like, oh, you can put it on toast, and I forget what else she said, because I'm like, this is good just by itself. And then of course had to get some cheese. I'm hoping it's cold enough in my car that it'll make it to the hotel fridge tonight. I'm obviously gonna eat some of it before then, but oh, there's a squirrel. I got a couple Danishes. I take out a second mortgage on keto food and then I end up getting a $5 Danish for breakfast. So can I pull it out? Look at that puppy. I mean, see, I couldn't resist it. The prices weren't bad. I expected them to be a little bit more, but they're kind of the same prices that we have at our local farmers market. And I'm really surprised how much produce and flowers they have this time of year. You know how yesterday I was sassy and I was like, the cold doesn't bother me? Well, it's cold. It wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't a wind, but there's a wind in the air, which I'm really hoping calms down. Where the Wisconsin State Capitol is, it's in between two lakes. I caught a glimpse of one of the lakes while I was walking around, but I'm gonna go find some coffee and find a pretty spot near the lake to eat my Danish, and then it'll be on to Waukesha. I made it to Waukesha, and my first stop was David's Park, which was the site of the Slenderman stabbing. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video on the crime locations because I'm making individual videos on each location for my true crime channel, but I will leave that channel linked below. I then headed to downtown Waukesha, which was the site of the Christmas Parade attack in 2021. At least there's some bears in Wisconsin. Waukesha is such a charming little town. Well, I don't know if it's little. I think it's like 70,000 people, but the downtown area is so pretty. There's a river that goes through it. The buildings are charming. There's a church downtown. It's such a beautiful place. So it's sad to know that two tragedies happened here, especially walking down Main Street, knowing that that was an area where 6 people lost their lives. That was sad. Just because it was such a contrast of a beautiful, charming place and evilness. I gotta get rid of some layers because it's heating up outside. Plus, I've been walking around. It's super awkward vlogging in front of people where they can see and hear you. When I was on Main Street talking into the camera, some asshat honked at me knowing that I was talking. He went into a resident's house who had no, but whatever. I'm hot. I gotta get out of some clothes. I then went up to this furniture store, which is on the north part of Waukesha. This is where the Slenderman stabbing girls were caught. Then I scooted over to another suburb of Milwaukee, West Allis, and saw the house that used to belong to Jeffrey Dahmer's grandmother. Jeff lived with her for several years, and he killed some of his victims in her basement. One of the neighbors was mowing, so it was super awkward filming my vlog in front of there. I wonder if he knew the house was a place that Jeffrey Dahmer used to live, or if he was just thinking, what is this idiot doing filming this random house? Then it was on to Milwaukee to see the rest of the Jeffrey Dahmer locations.
Do you want a banana?
Thank you. You wouldn't have a cigarette, would you?
I don't smoke.
That's all right.
You betcha.
I really appreciate that.
You betcha. I saw the Ambassador Hotel, which is where Jeffrey killed one of his victims. It had such neat details on the outside. Then the first apartment he lived in. The Grand Avenue Mall, which is where he picked up one of his victims. The site of where Club 219 used to be, which is where Jeffrey met a lot of his victims. And of course the site of the infamous Oxford Apartments. The building was torn down in 1992 and nothing has been built in its place. And of course ran into more people who saw I was filming. Hello. Hello. Guess who made her way through downtown Milwaukee all by herself and found Lake Michigan? I'm not the bravest driver in the world, so I challenged myself to drive through downtown Milwaukee. Granted, I didn't go through like the part that looked the scariest on the map, but I still did it. I didn't eat a whole lot throughout the day because seeing some of those sites, you do kind of get a sick feeling in your stomach just to know what happened there. One of the places I was looking forward to seeing the most was where Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment was. When I've seen pictures of it and videos of it, even the vacant lot, like it looked so big. And then seeing it in person, it was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. It feels so inappropriate to make a "that's what she said" joke there. But it was smaller, and I don't want to say underwhelming because it wasn't, because I sat there for a little bit and just looked at like the sidewalk and thought, God, this is where a lot of men took their last steps. But in a way, it's kind of, what's the word? Analogetic? Is that a word? Not therapeutic. Oh my gosh, what is the word? Symbolic! Because when you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, he was a mild-mannered, handsome, Midwestern guy. You would never think that he murdered 17 men and did gross things with their bodies. So in a way, it was kind of symbolic to see an area that looks so much bigger, to see it in person and realize it was just a lot. It was just a small lot in a kind of crappy neighborhood of Milwaukee. And yeah. I'm going to head up to my hotel. It is in Berlin, Wisconsin. I think it'll be about a 2-hour drive, maybe a little bit less. And then I'm going to call it a night. Good morning from Berlin. I'm just drinking some coffee here. I got this down in the hotel lobby. They do have a breakfast and I feel comfortable eating at this one. This hotel is definitely a lot nicer than the other hotel. For one, the bathroom doesn't smell like weed. And speaking of that, the beach that I went to last night smelled like weed. There was a gas station I stopped at that I caught a hint of it. I'm like, why does the state of Wisconsin smell like weed? Is it the cheese? I have another cheese Danish I'm gonna eat because I got 2 of them yesterday. I was gonna get one, and I asked the gal if they took cards, and she said they do with a $10 minimum purchase. She said that would be 2 of their Danishes. And I said, do I look like a gal who needs convincing into buying 2 cheese Danishes? Today's gonna be quite a bit different than yesterday because yesterday I was in one of the biggest cities of the Midwest, and today I'm gonna be kind of out in the country. Is Milwaukee one of the biggest cities in America? Does it even have 1 million people? Hang on. About 577,000. First stop is going to be, I call it the Gein Museum in Wautoma, but I think it's going to be closed. It's the building that used to be the jail, and it was where Gein was held when he was first arrested. And prior to this trip, I could not find hours of when they were open. I was doing a little bit more research last night though, and I think it's actually the Waukesha Historical County Museum or something like that. And if that's the case, they're not open until Wednesday, and it's Sunday. So that's a little bit of a bummer because that was one of the main reasons I wanted to be on this trip, because you can see the jail cell that Gein was held in, but oh well. But that's in Wautoma. Wisconsin really likes their sounding towns, you know, Wautoma, Waukesha, Waukesha. But I think that's part of the accent. You know, people tend to think Minnesotans have the strongest Midwest accent, but no, in my opinion, it's Wisconsinites. But it's more of like is that a short A or short O sounding? The Waukesha, Wautoma, Wisconsin, Packers. Okay, I've officially reached the point in my solo trip where I'm losing my mind. And oh my gosh, there's Packers stuff everywhere.
Shit.
Plan for today is to go to Wautoma and then the areas around Plainfield, then down to the prison that Jeffrey Dahmer died in, and then make my way home. I made it to Wautoma, and yes, the museum was closed. They had a sign that said they were only open on Wednesdays from 9 to 2, which is super inconvenient, but it was still cool to see the outside of it. Then back on the road, I saw an eagle in a tree. I had to pull over, turn around, and go back and take another look at it because it was so cool. Then I stopped at one of the cemeteries that Gein robbed graves from. then stopped at the site where Mary Hogan's Tavern used to be. Mary Hogan was one of the women that Ed killed, and he killed her in the tavern that used to be here. I didn't get out of my car because there was a sign that said the area was under electronic surveillance, so I just did some videos from the car and got back on the road. Next stop was the small town of Plainfield, which was the main town where things occurred with Ed Gein. I stopped at the building that used to be Warden's hardware store. Ed killed Bernice Warden in this building. I then went out to the Plainfield Cemetery, which was another of the cemeteries that Ed Gein robbed graves from, but it's also where he and his family are buried. His headstone is no longer there because it kept getting vandalized, so they removed it and it's currently kept in storage in the sheriff's department. But when I got there, somebody had stuck this little skeleton hand in the spot where his gravestone would be. Then I headed south of Plainfield about 6 miles to the site where Ed Gein's farm used to be. Nothing is on the land anymore other than just trees pretty much, but it is private property, so I stayed on the road. This is the site where the farmhouse used to be and where Ed Gein would bring bodies back to and do things with them. I then continued a little bit further south to the Hancock Cemetery, which was the third cemetery that Ed Gein robbed graves from. I had to drive further in and check out the statue that looks super cool, and turns out it's a monument to some soldiers who died in the 1800s. Then I went further south to Portage, Wisconsin, and the Columbia Correctional Institution, which is where Jeff Dahmer was sent after he was found guilty. Jeff was only in this prison for about 2 years before he was killed there by another inmate. Oh my god, I got yelled at by a prison guard. I was just in the visitor parking lot, but he yelled from the tower thingy that I was trespassing and I had to go. I knew of all the places that I went to, that one would have the most security and would therefore have the higher probability that I would get yelled at and kicked out. And I did. But it's understandable. It's a maximum security facility. I get it. Luckily, I'd already gotten all the pictures and videos that I wanted. They probably saw me out there the whole time. They're like, well, we'll give her a little bit. And then when I was still taking pictures and vids, they're like, okay, cut her off. I am in Wisconsin Dells at a gas station, just filled up. I'm going to start making my way home. This was a really interesting trip to see some of those sites. This wasn't my first time in Wisconsin. It's not going to be my last time in Wisconsin. It is a pretty state this time of year. I'm really looking forward to going through La Crosse from this direction because that's where it crosses the Mississippi River. Is that where the name came from? Anyway, it was so pretty coming this direction that I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty going that direction too. But otherwise, my next stop will be home, other than potty breaks. Thank you so much for kind of riding along with me on this trip. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Stay. You know what? We'll go over here. Piece of shit.
I get so emotional, baby. Every time I think of
Right onto County Highway East, North County Road F.
ruining my jam.
Mother.